truth is, right now, we're more focused on replacing people than enhancing them. It's enabling your team members with AI to make them better and faster or more effective. There are ways now to harness that brain power and make things happen so much faster. And some of those larger companies are going all in with technology, and that will have a substantial impact on how we see loans from an AI efficiency perspective done over the next part of the 12 to 24 month timeline. I think the independent, smaller companies that can move fast have the advantage today. And what I mean by that is, I'm Alex McFadyen, and this is the Loan Officer Playbook.
We've been doing this podcast for over 20 episodes now, and we've brought on top mortgage professionals to give you insights that help you grow your business. And we're going to keep doing that. There's just one favor I ask of you. It'll mean a lot to us if you subscribe to show your support. Now back to the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Loan Officer Playbook, the podcast where we talk about real insights and strategies in mortgage lending to help you grow your business. Today, my guest is Alex McFadyen. Alex is a top mortgage broker in Canada. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael, man. I'm always excited to hang out with you and chat with you, and I'm more pumped to have this conversation here today. Looking forward to seeing what kind of value we can bring. Let's go.
I see you as one of those mortgage producing branch managers and visionaries in the business that not only work on their business, but think about, hey, how would this business look 5 to 10 years from now? And what are the things that I can put in place to make that happen? I mean, have you always had this kind of visionary thinking, or did you develop it in this business?
I think the difference, Michael, with where I am today versus where I was 5 years ago is that I didn't really understand what visionary thinking meant in the past. And only in the last 5 years, call it 3 years, have I really been able to understand through entrepreneurial operating system and other different mechanisms. To answer your question thoroughly, yes, I've always been thinking about the future, but I wasn't able to harness it. And now I feel strongly with technology like what you're building out and other people are building that there are ways now to harness that brain power and make things happen so much faster. And so the last year has been absolutely amazing.
What are some of the things that you're seeing in the technology space right now? Because there's so much BS in AI for mortgage.
Well, in the AI space, as far as the mortgage industry is concerned, I think what we're seeing is a lot of fragmentation right now. There are a lot of really neat tools that are out there. A lot of them are not industry specific, so people are having to adapt the tools that are out there in the marketplace to the mortgage space and find bits and pieces. As far as the day-to-day operational perspective, I think where it's helping people run the mortgage businesses right now, at least outside of standardized workflows that we've had for a long time, would be communication, right? And what I mean by that is improving internal communication, improving things like operating procedures, improving checklists, improving different parts of the business. I think those that are relying on the AI to be the communicating factor and they don't have the knowledge, they're struggling, actually. It's interesting to note that there are some people, and I've noticed this already in the industry, who are literally using chatbots and GPT and so forth as their communication mechanism, and people just don't want that right now. They're not ready for that part in their lives. What they want is someone who is enabled by technology and able to still communicate and understand things. So from a technology perspective, I think obviously, as you know, the industry is fragmented. There's a lot of startups. There's a lot of agents being sold. There's a lot of lead follow-ups being sold, and some of them are great and some of them are not. I do see this situation right now where it's kind of like the Wild West, like a lot of industries in the financial space, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some consolidation in the next 12 to 18 months where we see some of these smaller companies either get acquired or get crushed, and we start to see a few name players pop out and provide real products that can be usable in the marketplace and really change things.
Yeah. Speaking of fragmentation, it's all about what parts of the fragment that you can implement. But why do you think that the mortgage process is so fragmented, whereas there cannot be one holistic AI that would, just do everything for me? Everyone has different things, and what needs to happen for there to be one holistic AI?
Well, I think you deal with a situation where you have independent agents. You have independent agents on small teams. You have medium-sized teams, larger teams. Then you have, depending on which country you're in, I'm in Canada or the US, you could have larger scale companies with 50 to 100 different people. There's so much variance. It's kind of like it's like in the real estate industry. Like every real estate agent kind of runs their day-to-day sales business differently from another. And then you have, teams that run certain businesses. Then you have large operations. It's the same thing in the mortgage world where because there are so many different ways that people run their business, and that is one of the reasons that people are attracted to the mortgage world in the first place, is that kind of like freedom to build your business. I think it's been hard for both companies and also people to be willing to adapt to their business. It's not like accounting. Accounting, you jump in, there's a really tested, true way to run a small, medium, and large scale accounting business. And it's not, in absolute terms, substantially different from one to the next, other than some nuances. In the mortgage world, you have a whole bunch of people that are one agent or with an assistant or two plus an assistant. And then you got a couple that are 5-person teams, and then you've got a few large person teams. So I think the reality is from a business operations standpoint, a lot of companies look at this as an industry that really financially might not make a lot of sense for them yet to enter. There are places we are seeing big players come in. Some of those larger companies are going all in with technology, like some of those online distribution companies like the Rocket Mortgages and the Quicken Loans of the US, and in Canada there's a couple of variations of that. And that will probably have a substantial impact on how we see loans from an AI efficiency perspective done over the next part of the 12 to 24 month timeline.
If you have to, long or short, which one of them would benefit the most from AI? You think the one company that has one process across all of their orgs, or those independent brokers that have many different processes? Which one would you bet on?
I mean, I'll put it like this. I think the independent, smaller companies that can move fast have the advantage today. And what I mean by that is they're not going to get bogged down by too many different corporate structures and levels of hierarchies to be able to implement something fast, efficiently, and move and use it right away. Like if you and Michael, you and I talk, we can put something together in 7 to 14 days and use it right away and test it. This works, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And it's a feedback loop that can immediately impact the end user, the client. Right. So there's a massive advantage for someone at my level or scale, whereas historically speaking, someone who had a smaller revenue company or a 5 to 10-person team, it would have cost a lot of money to build a custom solution, 6 months and 12 months of time, whereas those larger companies would have had a huge advantage at that point because they're going to be able to spend the money right away to hire somebody and put them in place to do that. So both sides are going to be in a little bit of a quote unquote race to a solution. Every side should have an SOP. Every side should have processes in place. And I think AI just enables the speed of implementation of that. But the big question at the end of the day comes down to two elements. One, speed of movement. Are you able to move fast? And then second is the people involved. There's an interesting element that no one's talking about right now, which is this concept of enable AI-enabled people, where instead of focusing on replacing people with AI, it's enabling your team members with AI to make them better and faster or more effective. And the truth is, right now, we're more focused on replacing people than enhancing them. And I truly believe that's where we need to be going right now. And I think that is actually a gap that, honestly, even I haven't been able to figure out right now, is where and how do you enable those people? How do you either find the ones that are enabled or teach the ones who are not yet to be able to have success? Because I can implement 10 different technologies or CRMs, but if the people I have don't understand how they work or don't have the clarity on speaking that language, that's what's really going to hold us back.
I mean, if you have 1,000 agents, don't you think there's some fat that has to be trimmed?
No question.
Yeah. So 1,000 agents, you cannot AI enable all of the 1,000 agents. I mean, you can, but then they'll be operating at like a million agent level, assuming like 100x per agent, right? Or like 1,000x increase in productivity. And then you're just going to take all the loans. So to your point, I do see that independent brokers, like if you implement AI and then, your agents and your loan officers and mortgage advisors suddenly become 2 to 3x more productive, then that's a more reasonable scale that you can provide actual value to clients. Having to implement like a 3 to 4x scale across 1,000 organization companies is going to take a while for adoption to happen.
No doubt.
Do you see a coupling with the Canadian market and the American market when it comes to housing?
I built a comparison of where the U.S. interest rate market is and the Canadian interest rate market. And historically speaking, Canada, relatively speaking, does follow the U.S. yields. So if we follow what's going on in the U.S., then typically Canada, within some level of reason, does follow the market relatively quickly. our market is just usually either 6 months ahead or behind in most circumstances. But the one thing you have to remember about the U.S. market versus the Canadian market is that the U.S. has so many different regions and there's such a higher population. So if you're talking about, like the state of California is bigger than all of Canada. So you could pick cities within California which have a substantially higher population than an entire province, which means that they can have their own micro, economies of things that are going on at any given time. So to answer your question thoroughly, there is a market that follows one and it follows the other. It's just a matter of time. What limits the Canadian market is access to information. Data tends to be slower. A lot of U.S. companies will not implement the technology into the Canadian market because they don't see the value or the profit relative to just expanding within the U.S. We are, however, starting to see Canadian companies, big banks start to put their money into AI, but I think they'll take a long time before anything reasonable starts to happen. So I guess there's two answers to your questions. On the real estate side, yes, the market does couple to a degree. It's just somewhat regional. On the technology and internal business side, that's something that Canada will just be always slower. However, I think that with the advent of AI and making it much simpler, you'll start to see that slowly come closer together as time goes on.
On a higher level of abstraction of different kinds of technology, the OpenAI and ChatGPT of the US is the same ChatGPT of Canada. Do you see an opportunity for like one technology provider to have a reasonable market share, let's say in AI loan processing, for instance, hinting at us, to have a reasonable market share in both the US and Canada? Or is that like too infeasible?
Well, anything's feasible. It just comes down to allocation of resources, right? So it's the language anybody can understand, right? The documents anybody can figure out. The numbers, anybody should figure out within a short period of time. It's more about a question of, do you want to allocate the resources to be the person to be cross-border? And the answer undeniably is yes. No doubt you can. Addy can do that if they implement and put the resources behind making sure to be top of class. What you have to avoid in any business is coming to a market only because it's a shiny object.
How are you looking at recruiting these days? And has recruiting in the mortgage business fundamentally changed?
To answer the second question, I don't know that it's fundamentally changed because that's probably a historical question. I would say no. I think the idea of recruiting in the mortgage space is the same as recruiting in any space for that matter. You typically, if you want the best of the best, like top level people, like I'm hiring for a combination of entry level and top level. This role that you're referencing is more of a top level, like a leadership position, like director of operations, and that type of a role. I think you can't. I don't think you're placing a job ad out for that type of person. I think you're telling people what you're looking for. I think you're communicating effectively with other people in relatively similar industries of what you're looking for, and you have to find these people. They're not going to be searching for you, if that makes sense. I think maybe that's just a general question. I've found that to be the case with most roles that I've hired, where I usually find the highest level of success with employees when I am looking for a referral from my team members, referral from someone who knows who we are, and or seeking this person who's already maybe in a similar industry or maybe with a different company that's comparable to ours. Where I find the biggest challenge is just generally speaking going through like an Indeed or whatnot. You can find people. I have found people, but I found that there's a lot more sifting through that market versus talking and putting it out there and using your social influence.
When I think of you, I think of three things that come to mind. I think of Flow Mortgage, I think of Alex McFadyen, and I think of your love for pugs. How does the business brand and the personal brand work together?
They're one and the same. I mean, objectively speaking, your messaging is the only thing that changes as time goes on. So your brand is based on understanding of who you are, and that's built on what you do day to day, operationally speaking, like your business, but it's also built on the elements that are impactful to you, right? Like from a personal perspective, as you know, the pugs, the boat, the surfing, the outdoor stuff, that's my personal life. An element of how I think, which comes down to things like when I share thoughts, feelings, quotes, writing, mindset pieces, and then an element of basically what am I positioning? What am I doing? So I have the ability in building a brand that people trust and follow and that has been consistent for so long where I can change my messaging. I can look for a job hire. I can put my hand up and say, if you're a business owner and you're having trouble getting qualified by the bank, this is something that we have an expertise in. Here's what you need to do, and here's how we can help you. So I can put my hand up for that. If you're not clear who you are and the value that you bring to people, it is where things can get a little bit lost and a little bit stuck in between. I think for the most part, what you just said is what everybody says to me whenever I meet them. They're like, whoa, you bring a lot of energy, you like coffee, you like pugs, you know a lot about mortgages, you know a ton about finance, and you seem to be passionate about helping other business owners. Like literally, that's what I get. everywhere I go. And I'm like, perfect. That is what I'm trying to do.
People can be multifaceted. Like you can be good at surfing, but you could also know a shit ton about mortgages. And
That's
you
right.
could also be someone who wants to hire an operations director at the same
Yeah.
time.
I mean, to your point, like a personal brand is something that resonates with other people that are out there, and it makes them intrigued and interested in following you, right? Like, I mean, we could all pick up celebrities and stuff like that who have built a quote unquote brand. I think that's a key phrase. All it means to me is it's a magnetic personality that people want to be involved with or follow. And you believe in what they're doing, or you're interested in what they're doing. And a lot of that really comes down to being truthful and honest, both with yourself and your audience.
What's the biggest blind spot you think CEOs have right now?
I don't think enough people are thinking and acting fast enough right now with technology and asking themselves the question, how do I enable my team with technology? Even if it's something that's going to take you a little while to get there, like how much time are you spending actually doing it? Like, Michael, I listen to a podcast probably 3 to 4 times a week that literally just tells me what's new with AI. It's 15 minutes long. It's like, it's just something I listen to when I'm working out for the first 15 minutes or so when in the morning. And I just want to know what's new, like what's the new thing that's out. I might not use it. I might not have anything to do with it. It's not information overload because I know for a fact that I don't have to do everything there, but I just want to be aware. I just want to be aware of what's happening. And that's different than listening to the news. Like I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. There's some big events that have occurred in the last few weeks that genuinely I was probably the last person to know who those people were and what was happening, because that had no impact on my day-to-day. But knowing where the technology market is going, I think that does. And so if I were someone who was looking to be a progressive loan officer, branch manager in this market, I would be dedicating either one of my top people on my team and myself a certain amount of time weekly at minimum to understand some of the new technologies that are coming out, how they work, how they are applied. And the second thing I would do is I would still be constantly making sure that I and my team understand, relatively speaking, the financial markets. Because my feedback is that, again, technology is going to do all the basic shit. Like, you don't need to do that stuff. It's the knowledge of the market and being able to explain that is going to be more beneficial for other people. I spent yesterday, Michael, 1 hour built out I think of it as like the new mortgage advisor's guide, a 10-page document on what types of things to look for in the markets and how to articulate this to clients. And I built it in such a way that a new mortgage officer with 6 months of experience could understand now how to read the data. I don't need you to be the person to go find the data. I just need you to be able to explain it and understand it. That's all.
Yeah. Man, I don't think mortgage leaders are pressuring their people enough. Because what we're going to end up seeing is not like a gradual progression in AI tools. It's going to be an explosion. People are not pressuring their people enough. Like leaders are not pressuring their people enough. And I feel like people are thinking of this as like, later on, like there might be some progression, but I think we will have more of an explosion rather than a progression in AI for the mortgage space. If you were to build a mortgage business today from scratch, where would you start?
Originally, 10, 15, even 5 years ago, the way to get into the mortgage industry would be that you go and find a mentor, and the mentor teaches you some stuff, and then you take 3 or 4 years, you scrape along, and then eventually you find your way. What I would say to someone now is that there are brokerages and companies that are out there now that offer a substantially better training at a time that you can be do it yourself, DIY as in like virtual training, and B, you can follow a path, so to speak, and then C, there's coaching available on demand at all times. So I would want to find a company that focuses a lot of the energy on sales and marketing as a big part of it, advisory support, and then has that level of coaching and training at all times. Again, I don't think that someone joining the industry right now needs to know all the ins and outs of the mortgage process, but they need to understand how to sell it, how to articulate it, how to advise, and they need to have a support mechanism in place all the time to be able to have success. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the industry is just getting faster and more efficient. Like, you got to be able to articulate things clearly. You need to be seen and you need to be heard on a regular basis, which means you need to be good at sales and marketing, but you need to be able to advise and move fast.
And that's like so many different things. How would you describe yourself? Okay, so let's do this exercise. I'm going to ask you a question on like yes or no. Do you sell?
Yes.
Are you the face of your brand?
Yes, right now I am.
Do you operate the day-to-day?
Am I an operator?
Yeah, are you an operator?
Yes, we are an operator. Still.
Yes, and do you advise on mortgages?
Yes.
So what are you?
I would describe myself as someone who is doing too many things, but is at a level of scale whereby I've learned to do a variety of different things. And now I need to be very good at finding the right people to put into different positions. So to be hyper clear, I am an operator right now. I'd prefer to be an owner and objectively a visionary. I need to find the right person and put that person in place to have success, to be able to do that. To be more of a team leader. Let me take a step back here. I started this particular company 2 years ago, okay? I've been in the industry for a while, but I started this company 2 years ago. The first year is get off the ground, get started, build the brand, get the name out there. We've talked to other mortgage professionals that you've had on your episode that really just focus, like, make your calls, do your things, right? And over the last 2 years, we've added some team members, removed some team members, we've adjusted some of the systems. But what I have identified, and these aren't things that I learned, these are things that just took some time to build out really quickly, is I definitely can't do it all. I definitely shouldn't do it all, and I definitely need to put the right people in place. I think we underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years, but we overestimate what we can do in a year, which is all just to say that in order for me and my personal life to be able to survive and build the brand that I wanted to do, I needed to identify what I wanted to do, what I was good at, and what I wasn't good at. And in this point right now, we do have a team leader of underwriting, so I do not underwrite applications. We do have assistants in place. We do have people who communicate with the clients. We do have, technically speaking, a contracted operations manager right now who stepped into the business about 3 months ago to identify, and about 2 weeks ago to be able to actually start leading the team. And so we are in a transitionary position right now where, yes, I am still at the brand of the business, and that's not a bad thing, but we are building out to a point where it's not reliant on me to be the key man for every single item. And between you and I, and this is being ruthlessly honest, and anybody who watched this video who knows me, if it's 50 people or 100 people, would know that I'm as hard on myself as anybody else, and it's just a learning process, right? We take steps forward and then we take steps back. Well, I move really, really fast, so a lot of times that means I have to take a bunch of steps back. In business and in life, like, to the best people, I believe, as far as being able to progress and achieve something substantial or momentous, are those people that aren't afraid of feedback, good, bad, or ugly. They just accept it as what it is and then make a decision as to whether or not they want to do something about it. And we're always afraid of either hurting someone's feelings or giving feedback that might make them feel bad, or receiving feedback that doesn't feel good, right? What you just said right there was another reminder to me that I have a lot of work to do, right? When you ask those questions, like, I have a long way to go, but I also need to be okay and be all right with accepting the fact that I have made it this far, instead of just worrying about how far I have to go. Like, I've made it this far up the mountain, and it's just another reminder of this awesome experience and awesome opportunity I have to continue working up the mountain until such time that we're level 10 good and our team is absolutely crushing it. I don't want to just do it just to do it. I want it to be exceptional.
I want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. What's the most overrated mortgage product?
I genuinely don't know I have an answer for you, man. Sorry, I'd have to chew on that for a second.
We can skip that. What's the most underrated?
Yeah, underrated? I mean, I think the underrated would be in Canada, at least, I don't know what it's like in the States, but a properly set up multi-component line of credit, which basically means a line of credit that can turn into multiple mortgages if it can be set up correctly. Maybe the first answer to your first question is overrated is like tactics and sales strategies that people use to get people in the door. So for example, there's trends in the marketplace hey, there's this rule that you can save money on your taxes if you do this one thing, and then all their business is built on this one tax loop. I feel like there's value in being a specialist, but there's a lot of circumstances where you're a one-trick pony and your business will collapse the moment that these things walk away, and it'll probably be a weakness. So there's pros and cons to that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just I think there's a lot of people that see someone having success on social media and they start selling something that they don't fully comprehend or understand, and they don't have the base yet built up so that they can have success if it's not the right fit for the client and they're selling them. Most underrated is honestly just doing what the right damn thing is for the client, even if it doesn't mean you make any money. And the thing is, people make decisions in most circumstances, 90% of people, purely because of that number at that rate. And that's probably not the right decision for them. But most people aren't willing to spend the time and the energy to get thoughtful about asking better questions to help people guide them into a better position. You're really just a guide. That's all you are. That's all you do. So underrated, being good at being a guide. Overrated, selling shit on Instagram that's not helpful for anybody.
I love it. I think we can end it there. So Alex, how can our audience reach out to you?
Yeah, awesome. Find me on Instagram at The Mortgage Pug. That's probably the easiest way, because then they can see the YouTube, the podcast, all that stuff right from there if they want to.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Loan Officer Playbook. Thanks for coming, Alex. This was an amazing episode, and looking forward to chatting with you again.